Next up, as if we haven't shown you enough new stuff today, we're actually going to show you some experiments we've been playing around with. So this is a little further off in the future, give you a sneak peek of some of the technologies we've been playing with. I want to invite up Devin Fernandez and Feener, and they're going to talk about some of the pipeline technologies we've been working on. So Tara and Devin.
Thanks, Mike. So again, I'd like to introduce my friend, or my close friend and colleague, Feener, and I'm Devin Fernandez, and we're two members of the innovation pipeline here at Adobe. And Tara is a senior experience developer, and I'm a principal product manager. And over the next few minutes, I'm going to explain to you exactly what the innovation pipeline is, and then hopefully we'll shift into something a little bit more exciting, a little bit less slidey, and Tara will walk us through a couple of the early prototypes that we've built in the pipeline so far. So I'm just going to jump right in. So what is the innovation pipeline? The innovation pipeline is actually a dedicated innovation factory within Adobe that's designed to use lean startup techniques to really innovate on a continuous basis. And so what we do is we explore new product concepts to understand the things that are most likely to disrupt sort of the established norms within the web design space. And what that does is it allows us to establish a better understanding of the modern web designer and developer, you perhaps, and your ever-evolving needs. And so for a second, let's think about why we do that. So Albert Einstein once said that if I had an hour to solve a problem, I'd spend 55 minutes thinking about the problem and 5 minutes thinking about solutions. And the tendency within technology is actually to spend pretty much most of our time thinking about the solutions that we're going to build, and perhaps not enough time thinking about the problem we're solving or the customer. So oftentimes we build too much product without an understanding of the user or of the problem we're solving. So it's the philosophy of the innovation pipeline team to really take some of Albert Einstein's thinking. Now, we're not geniuses, but we do know enough to understand that we're probably better off if we spend a lot more time thinking about the problem than we do actually building the solution. So how do we do that? So we do that by studying designers and developers sort of in detail to really understand the things that they find most challenging in workflows today. So what do? We brainstorm. We brainstorm a ton. We brainstorm across the company with different teams and different organizations. We brainstorm with customers. And then what we try to do is capture sort of as many of the problems that we think we should address into a type of backlog or a funnel. And we sort of prioritize them to understand what problems should really actually be solved, or which problems are really worth solving. And then from there, we rapidly prototype some really narrowly defined, purpose-driven solutions. And when I say rapid, I mean an investment of days or weeks, not months or years. So the pipeline team really consists of many or tiny little teams of, that we call innovation teams that consist of just a single designer, a single developer, a product manager, and a researcher. So we can and do move very quickly. And from there, we take our working prototypes and we do live testing with potential users, and we use as our benchmark the value add that we can create with those target users. And the truth is that we often fail. We fail quite a bit, actually. Sometimes we fail before we even get to testing. But the thing is that failure is just part of our process, not necessarily the end of it. And then on occasion, we do succeed. So we might have a new feature for an existing product, or if we're lucky, we might be sitting on the basis for an entirely new product offering. Right? So, well, that's the wrong slide, but from here, well, now that I've given you kind of a quick overview of what we do in the innovation pipeline, I'm going to turn things over to Tara, and she's going to walk us through a couple of the early prototypes that we've produced so far. And while Tara's actually getting set up, I have a couple of disclaimers about the prototypes that you're about to see. The first is that we're not quite sure what we're going to do with them yet. Again, they could be a new feature, it could be a new product, but they could also just be trash in a good learning opportunity. On top of that, we've made an investment of weeks in these, not months or years, and so these prototypes have been known to misbehave at times. So as you saw, the kid geniuses, they've strapped their helmets on already and have their protective eyewear on. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tara and let her show you a couple of things we've been working on.
I'm going to start by demoing the first project to come out of pipeline, codenamed Gadget. So Gadget came from a desire to investigate richer visual inspection for the web. Okay, so we know that there's a ton happening in this space. We're all really big fans of Chrome DevTools and Firebug and Dragonfly and Opera. And if you come ask us later, we can fight over favorites. But we wanted to brainstorm how we could complement inspection on the web. So we spent a bunch of time observing designers and developers actually inspecting code on projects and combine it with some of the pain points we've been experiencing ourselves. And the first thing we noticed is how often people go searching for a specific DOM element and then searching for some style they care about for the purposes of tweaking it to get it just right to extract and put back in your CSS. So for our first 3-week sprint, we thought, what if we used a tooltip on Hover to show web designers at a glance certain computed styles for an element? And furthermore, what if we allowed you to tweak them using Photoshop-like interfaces? So I'm going to jump in and show you the results of our first sprint. We actually decided to build it as a Chrome extension. So I'm going to do a little helmeting and turn it on. And we added this little icon, which is a little magnifying glass in the top right-hand corner. So we can click it to turn it on, and you can see that as we hover over, we're getting information about the DOM element and some instant feedback about certain styles, like the font face, the font weight, the font color. We can also click an element and actually scrub the values right here on object. So if I wanted to change the font size or the font color, we can do it right there. And as we're making edits, they're actually getting added to the versions panel in the bottom right-hand corner. So you can see the font color change I made is listed here, as well as the font size change. So we took this prototype to New York to show customers, and they did not like it at all.
Not at all.
The HUDs reminded them too much of a WYSIWYG-like interface, and they felt like we were generating super crappy spaghetti code behind the scenes to make the entire thing work. But as we observed them using the prototype, we found that no one found the versions panel in the bottom right-hand corner. So we started pointing it out to people, and all of a sudden they loved it. They started ideating and brainstorming with us about how they could use this to share small tweaks and stylistic changes with coworkers. Furthermore, some of them got really excited and started hauling out like PDF files and emails and folders full of screenshots that they've been using to do this very thing for months and years. So the underlying value coming out of the prototype was that people wanted to share the changes they were making in the browser. So we came back to San Francisco and decided to pivot. Let's focus on versions and sharing. So jumping into the revised prototype, again, some more voodooing, we now have an updated icon, which is a little toolbox, so I can click to turn it on. You can see that we actually redesigned the versions panel, moved it to the top right-hand corner, and popped it open by default for discoverability. We can make the same changes we made before, so we can still do things like change the font size, change the font color, but we can also do some custom things, like we can add a new version, and we can actually change the background image, so for something a little bit more sweeping. I know that my designer friends are cringing somewhere. And we can also make changes like the copy. So if I wanted to change welcome to say bonjour, I could do that. I'll change irony to say something else. We added copy CSS buttons to each item, so you could get out a property name and value to extract back into your CSS, Sass, less, stylus, whatever you want. And we added sharing buttons to each version. So we could actually show users how a sharing experience would work with others. We also have the ability to go back and switch between versions. So if we want to go back to version 2 without the copy change, back to version 1 without the background change, and then back to the original. And then we decided to add one more thing. So as a developer, I'm personally not interested in learning how to use a new visual interface. So how great would it be if I could just use a web inspector and make changes there and have them copied as versions? So I can actually break it open. We're just going to select the body element. We have some base 64ing going on right there. I could change the color to be a teal, click away, and we've actually captured that version in the versions panel. So that's Gadget, capture, version, and share visual tweaks made in the browser. So I'm going to switch over and actually show you guys a demo of another pipeline project we're calling codename Asteris. We wanted to explore what we could do in the CSS optimization and refactoring spaces. So we went out and we spoke to a bunch more developers about their CSS workflows today. And of course, we quickly realized that every single person is writing CSS completely differently. So Asteris is an interface for better understanding your CSS, and ultimately helps you refactor overqualified selectors, reduce redundancy, and create better, more consistent CSS. We decided to prototype Asteris directly as a brackets extension. So let me jump in and show you guys. So I already have my project source code loaded. And you can see that we actually have a little asterisk symbol right next to live edit. So I'm just going to open up my CSS file. So I can click the little asterisk symbol to turn it on, and we now have a style browser. So if I wanted to explore something like the color property values in this project, I could just type in color, and we have auto-completion happening. Press enter, and you can see that Asteris actually renders each color value in order by number of occurrences. So the color which occurs the most, this gray, occurs a number of 6 times, is up top, and the one which occurs the least, so this bottommost item, is just there once. So with this type of aggregated property view, we get richer insight into value usage. Like, why am I using 11 different shades of gray in this project? I could start refactoring this down to 3 different shades, and then I could extract them out as sass or less variables. I can also do the same thing for properties like background. And you can see we're actually rendering little gradient swatches there as well, or font size. And again, it looks like I'm using a ton of different variations. So at any point in Asteris, you can single-click an item to be brought to the right line in the right file to make the change you want. The next thing I want to take a look at in Asteris is filtering by selector. So filtering by selector allows you to view all selector usage across your project. It's also a great learning tool when you're delving into someone else's code. So I've sort of spotted this social class here. I can actually go ahead and type it in, and again, we have auto-completion. So Asteris is actually rendering the usage of the social class across our project separated by media queries. So what's really great about this view is, as a developer who's been doing a lot of responsive web development recently, it gives me like a one-stop place to view all my selectors across all media queries, where previously I was having to jump around my CSS file to find what I was looking for. We can also choose to view selector in a hierarchy order. So if I click there, we're actually doing a bunch of smarter things for you behind the scenes. For example, we actually bring duplicates up to the top, and we highlight them with a light background. So this is something I probably never would have found on my own. And then we sort based on overqualification, or class qualification. So the most qualified classes are outermost or leftmost, and the least qualified are innermost. So anywhere where we see a really deep level of indentation, we can see at a glance how that looks. And that might be a place where we want to refactor. So that's Asteris, a richer filtered view for CSS. That's it for sneaks for now. Back to Devin.
And thanks. And just in closing, we hope this time was useful for you, but we're hoping that some of you might be interested in maybe taking a look at a prototype or two and maybe giving us some real honest feedback. We have very thick skin, so we're fine with criticism. But if you think you want to get involved with a pipeline, we're always looking for more people to interview or show prototypes to or test with. So if you think that might be you, then there's different ways to hit us up. You could try to remember this unrememberable or unmemorizable URL that we have there, or you could just or you could direct message Tara on Twitter. So she's Feener, and I'm at East Basics. So thank you.
Great. Thanks.